Hello again, everybody. Today we are showing the first results of the intuition test, which I conducted some weeks ago. If you haven't checked that video yet, please check it right now. I will post the link somewhere over here right now, so you can just click on it, watch that video, and come back to this moment. I measured your intuition by giving you 10 different positions. And also I gave you only 5 seconds to make your judgments and evaluate the position only in 5 seconds. Why? Because intuition, scientifically, is a response to a system when its resources are overwhelmed for exhaustive analysis, right? 5 seconds is not enough for you to make an exhaustive search and evaluations. So you need to rely on your gut feelings, right? So we were trying to replicate a scientific study which was published this year. That study tested super GMs, all the way from super GMs to candidate masters, by giving them 56 different positions, and they found a skill difference, right? They only give them 5 seconds to make their judgments, and they found that, more higher rated players were better in evaluating those positions only in 5 seconds compared to candidate masters. And the reason I did this study with you was twofold. Yeah, it was like multi-purpose. First of all, it's a great evaluation test. We'll talk about how we evaluate positions in general. Also, I was trying to get you involved in this scientific endeavor while also talking about chess. Now, obviously, the results are conservative. I will start showing you the first results. Bear in mind that this was not a real replication of the study. So we are doing very, very small sort of pilot search. And if I just show you the first slide, for example, here, let's look at this first slide. First of all, 17 of you sent me your responses. And well, it was a sort of my mistake because I also asked you to maybe evaluate the positions as equal. In fact, none of these positions were completely equal. So I had to get those 000 evals as wrong, unfortunately, which means these results are conservative. Check this out, right? It's correct responses out of 10. This graph shows us this. The second problem for me was that your ratings were all over the place, right? This was not like a real continuous scale. Some of you gave me ratings like ELO ratings, classical. Some of you gave me rapid ratings online. Some of you gave me blitz ratings. So we could not really do this continuous, search or analysis in terms of strengths and your judgments. Also, as I already mentioned, this study only gave you 10 positions compared to 56 positions given in the original study. And yet we found some general results, right? Just check this out. Most of you were correct 5 to 6 times out of 10 with your judgments. And that's good results, especially if it also take into account that these are conservative results, right? Interestingly enough, the lowest performances came from 2 strong players. They were like both 1800 ELO rated players, right? And meanwhile, look at this person. Yeah, it's only 879 rapid, and he was 5 out of 10 correct. So the results are showing us that there are no clear results or clear, let's say, support for the finding of the original study. It looks like it's all over the place, but as I already mentioned, right, we need more thorough search with more people, with more positions to have a more clear judgment. And now the second slide is already showing us, maybe this is a more interesting slide, because this basically shows us the success rate over different positions. So as you can check from this graph, some positions were much more difficult for you to come up with a good judgment, especially position 2 and position 3. Check this out, folks, right? It's almost like 20% correct for position 2 and let's say 33% correct for position 3, while the other positions you were much more successful. We'll go into this today in today's video. Yeah, position 1, for example, position 7, position 9, most of you were correct. So today I want to spend more time on these positions and how, for example, you went wrong in your judgments in those positions. And then I will have my own summary, and I also expect you to come up with your own summary in the end. Maybe you see something that I don't see in these results. This video might be a little bit longer than my previous ones, but I really want to go and talk about these positions as well, a little bit of in depth. Okay, so let's start from the first position, folks. It's coming now. The first position was this. And first of all, if you watch the video for the first time, please stop the video and evaluate the position for yourself. It's always the side that you're facing there's on the move, which means it's white to play right now. How would you evaluate this position? That's my question. And the original study, of course, we give you only 5 seconds to form your judgment. And most of you are correct, folks. Remember, success rate is 82%. Congratulations. White is much better. Why? Because of the bishop on g6, right? That's a buried piece, and white is already much better, especially after h4, let's say. Black has to play h5, and black's bishop is just a tall pawn. And great that you saw it instantly, only in 5 seconds, which means, right, terrible pieces can be spotted very, very soon and quickly, and you can form a judgment, snap judgment around those pieces. That's good. That's a great first start, folks. Now, let's check the second position. Most of you went wrong here. Again, stop the video and evaluate yourself if you watch the video for the first time. Now, only 24% of you said black is better. Black is in fact clearly better in this position, folks. And maybe that's the most surprising result of the study. It's a game between Bogolyubov and Alexander Alekhin, right? Great, Alekhin get this position with black. And why is black better? Mostly because of this beautiful unopposed bishop on g7. And also, I think it's about this e5 square control. Black has full control over e5. Plus, black has a pawn storm idea with b5, b4 in the future, right? Some of you, of course, looked at the king in the center. You looked at this f5 weak square and probably concluded that white should be better here. And that's interesting, right? And these are really interesting points to me, that your quick judgment were focusing on probably on the king in the center and also on the f5 square. So, and you were wrong because the bishop pair is a long-term asset for black, especially that bishop is amazing. If white also kept the bishop pair, let's say there will be bishop on e3, right? Things will be different. But here in this particular moment, black was better and black went on to win. I will, by the way, post the real games on the description of the video. So I won't lose much time. So let me go in the second position, next position. This also most of you went wrong here. It's a famous game between Karpov and Kasparov. It's white to play. Again, please stop the video and judge for yourself if you haven't done it already. Here, only 35% of you said white is better. In fact, white is clearly better, already a winning advantage. And why? Please tell me, folks, if you haven't done it already, why is white better in this position? The reason is the king's safety, right? Black king is not safe at all. White king is very, very safe behind these pawns. But look at the black king. Opposite color bishops always favor the attacker in the middle game. Yeah. So white can actually attack the black king on those light squares, but black cannot attack the white king at all in this position. So you probably misjudged this position because you looked at the passed pawn on d5, and this blurred your judgment, right? This was a tricky position because everyone can see that there's a passed pawn on d5, but it's much more difficult to quickly evaluate the king's safety and compare them, right? And in fact, Karpov went on to win a very, very beautiful game from this position. Again, it will be on the description below of this video, right? All right, let's go to the next position, folks. Position 4. Again, this was an interesting position because, again, stop the video and judge for yourself first. Only 47% of you, or maybe I shouldn't say only, 47% of you said white is better, and you're correct. White is better in this position, despite being an exchange down. A tricky position. Most of you probably saw that black is an extra exchange and concluded black should be better. In fact, if you look a little bit deeper, white has full domination in the center of the board on those dark squares, and also pressure on d7. And even if you compare the king's safety, right, black king is not safe compared to the white king. So in fact, white is domination. It's a game between Larsen and Najdorf, and Larsen went on to win a very, very nice game from this position, right? But again, 47% is not so bad, although it's a winning advantage. It's already plus 3.2 for white in this position, folks. Yeah. Let's continue with the next position. Position 5. So this is also maybe a tricky position to judge, but congratulations. First of all, 53% of you said white is better here. It's white to move. And you're correct. white is better, but it's only slightly better, only +1, despite white having 2 extra pawns in this position, right? And that was great. I think your judgment was also focusing on this beautiful dark square control for black, and that's an opposite side castling position anyways. So the value of material is going down, right? The value of initiative and attack is becoming more pronounced in such positions. So I think you're correct in your judgment that black surely has lots of compensation, right, for the pawn, for 2 pawns actually. That's in fact a very, very famous game from Zurich, 1953, between Kotov and Grigorich. In the original game, it was black to move here, but I changed the sides. I gave you the position from the white perspective, and white is slightly better in this position if it's on the move. Probably with moves like Rook G1. Okay? But congratulations overall. I think you did a very good job here in this position. This position surprised me. Because again, stop the video and judge for yourself. It's white to move. Only 41% of you said black is better, and black is indeed clearly better in this position. And that might be surprising for most of you folks, because probably most of you focused on this protected passed pawn on d5 and thus judged that white should be better here, right? But think again, although only 5 seconds, you have no time obviously, but if now you have more time, think again. This knight on d6 is an excellent piece, excellent blockader. Compare this knight with this terrible bishop on f3. Right, now you see some nuances here. Black can, for example, go rook c3, followed by domination on the c file. Plus, black has 2 versus 1 on the queen side. In fact, black has a very clear advantage in this position. For example, white can go rook e3, just to show you some moves, right? Rook e1, rook a4, rook c8. Domination of the pieces for black. Every single black piece is better than their white counterpart. Just compare the pieces for both sides, folks. Plus, black can start pushing the majority on the queen side. In fact, black has a winning advantage right now. Minus 3.1 according to the engine. So the conclusion, I think, from the initial position is a surprising one perhaps for some of you, is that protected passed pawn is not always a big advantage in chess. It depends on other factors. You should always focus on the piece quality and activity difference as well, right? So again, super GMs, masters, they can instantly see this, that black should be already better in this position. And they have great judgments already only in 5 seconds. So this is one of the most surprising findings of this study, that maybe some endgames are underappreciated. For example, blockading knight and so on. Let's look at this next position. Congratulations. 71% of you said white should be better. And indeed, white has domination in this position. That's a very famous game between Botvinnik and Alexander Alekhine. Alekhine after this game said he really felt he was outplayed. He was a young Botvinnik. He was not a world champion yet. It was in fact Alekhine who was the world champion. And Alekhine's pieces turned out to be really, really terrible spots. I mean, they are just completely tied down, right, in defending those weaknesses. And look at the white pieces. They are beautifully placed, attacking all these weaknesses. And white has clear domination in this endgame. Plus 4.3 according to the engine. So congratulations, folks. Most of you were right in your quick judgments here. I will post the real game on the description. This position, folks. Position number 8. Again, stop the video and judge for yourself. Congratulations, actually. This is a very tricky position to judge properly. 53% of you correctly said black is better. In fact, black is a slight edge here, although at first sight, it looks like white will crash through the king side with g4, g5 and win the game on the king side, while black has no similar pawn storm on the queen side, right? At first judgment, at first glance, it looks like white should be better because white's attack is happening very, very soon. White will use the h6 pawn as a hook pawn to open up lines on the king side, right? But if you look a little bit deeper, and especially if you find this engine line, rook d8 followed by knight h7, it turns out that black is already better. For example, in this position, white's attack came to a halt, and black will put pressure on the pawn on d4, and black, in fact, is much better in this position. But it's maybe more difficult, yeah, to evaluate this position from here. at the beginning. My judgment with white pieces was white should be better here. This was actually my own game with the white pieces. But congratulations, it means that maybe you can see a little bit deeper than me and you judge this position as slightly better for black. Great. Let's go and check the next position, position 9. We are almost coming to an end, folks. White to play here, and 59% of you correctly said white should be better. In fact, white is a clear edge in this position, plus 1.8 according to the engine, mostly because of the pure blockade and domination of those central squares. Yes, black has the bishop pair, but they are neutralized. This bishop is a terrible bishop, obviously, and white's knights will gain beautiful outpost squares on d4 and e5, and white is already better in this position. For example, white can go f4, just to give you a sample line, right? White can also play b5 to secure this d4 square for his pieces, and for example, takes, knight b3 followed by knight e4. You can see beautiful knights, domination in the center, blockading squares, and white keeps control of the position. So beautiful judgment. 59% of you correctly identify this position as better for white. Now we come to the final position, folks. Thank you for bearing with me, by the way, until the end of this video. Here, again, surprising results. Only 38% of you said black is better. In fact, black is better in this position. It's one of my own games, actually. Why? Because of this beautiful bishop pair and knight c6 to d4 plan in this position, right? So this is actually quite a beautiful position for black. Full control. White pieces are already limited by black's pawn on c5. And most of you probably said white is better because you quickly saw, right, those double pawns. And that's also very interesting findings. You quickly looked at those double pawns and said, hey, white should be better here, right? It's like a rule of best exchange line, and pure pawn game is winning for white. Thus, white should be better. But you must look a little bit deeper, especially once you identify this plan of knight c6 to, let's say, b4 or d4. If you look at this beautiful bishop on g7, sorry about my arrow, and this is already a better position for black. Now, folks, first of all, thank you so much for sending me your ideas. And now we are coming to the conclusion of this study, at least my own conclusions, right? My own conclusions are this so far. My preliminary conclusions. Maybe you have other conclusions. What I saw in your results so far is that you tend to evaluate pass pawns over king's safety. Remember Karpov-Kasparov game? Kasparov had a pass pawn, but Karpov had an attack against the black king. Maybe 5 seconds is not enough to see this difference. Also, protected passers were overvalued. Remember that position at endgame? Beautiful blockading knight versus bishop. And you judge this position as better for white. Double pawns are undervalued. Remember the last position that I showed you? You saw double pawns quickly and you judge this as better for white. So we might conclude early on that quick judgments are relying on this pawn structure, very general picture, and 5 seconds obviously is not enough, especially for club players, yeah, to look deeper, to look for piece activity, coordination, and king safety, right? These take obviously a bit more time, but super GMs, they see this instantly, and that's interesting. Yeah? Stronger players, they tend to 5 seconds seem to be enough for them to judge these facts as well. And finally, my final conclusions is that good things, terrible pieces, not as quickly. Remember the first position, black had a bishop on g6, which is a buried piece. You quickly spot that piece as a terrible piece, and you judge this position correctly, right? Surprisingly, maybe, opposite side castling positions accurately judged. You were mostly correct when the kings have castled on opposite flanks. Your judgments were really, really good, folks. And finally, blockading knights not appreciated properly, right? Remember the knight on d6? These are one of the typical endgame patterns to know, yeah? So maybe 5 seconds were not enough to judge the true value of that piece. So these are my first conclusions. Please tell me your own conclusions. Also, individual results might be interesting. Please check these results, my judgments, with your own judgments. And maybe you actually said some positions to be equal, but it was only slightly better for one side, right? So don't be harsh on yourself here. Because again, I actually got your, let's say, equal results as incorrect as well in the study, right? So don't be too harsh on yourself. Try to get the big picture and tell me which position has surprised you the most, which evaluation has surprised you the most, and what are your conclusions from this experiment. Thank you so much, folks, and thank you for bearing with me. We will do more of these things in the future, and have a great time. I will catch you very, very soon. Bye-bye.